Hi there. Everything happened in a single night. James, confident in his flawless life, was standing at the doorstep of his own home, clutching a forgotten piece of women's lingerie in his hand. At that very moment, the door swung open, and his wife Laura, who had unexpectedly returned early from her business trip, appeared on the threshold. But before you get comfortable, make sure to hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel. And let me know in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is where you are. I'm really curious to see who's joining us. Now, make yourself comfortable. Let's begin. James closed the front door and paused for a moment, taking in the empty silence of the house. It had always felt a bit too large, but with Laura gone, it seemed even bigger, echoing with every step he took. Laura, his wife, had left that morning for a business trip that would keep her away for several weeks. She had blown him a kiss at the door, her blonde hair tucked neatly into a bun, a navy suit fitting her slender, elegant figure perfectly. They had been married for several years, and though their life together was steady and warm, James felt a quiet restlessness that crept up especially when he was alone. He tried to distract himself with work, but by evening he grew bored. The city lights called to him through the living room window. He changed into a crisp white shirt, rolled up the sleeves, and slipped into a pair of well-fitted dark jeans. His reflection showed a man in his early 30s, tall, broad-shouldered, with short brown hair and clear blue eyes. A day's worth of stubble on his jaw giving him a slightly rugged look. He ended up at a bar he barely remembered, the kind with low lights and leather seats, smooth jazz playing just loud enough to fill the background. The bartender, a cheerful woman with curly red hair, served him an old-fashioned with a smile. Around him, small groups chatted quietly, laughter bubbling from the far end, where two friends debated over a pool table. James found a spot near the bar, sinking into a tall chair. He sipped his drink, letting the taste linger. As he scanned the room, his eyes caught on a woman who had just walked in. She drew attention without even trying. She was a little shorter than average, her figure graceful and feminine, with a slender waist that curved into full hips. Her breasts were modest, perhaps a B-cup, high and firm, accentuated by the way her red dress hugged her body. The dress itself was stunning, deep crimson, just above the knee, clinging to her curves. A subtle slit on the side revealing the hint of a toned thigh as she walked. Beneath, the outline of delicate beige lace could be glimpsed when the fabric shifted. And as she moved, the faintest shimmer of her stockings caught the light. Her long, wavy hair was a shade between gold and ash, cascading over one shoulder, framing a heart-shaped face with full lips, a slight dusting of freckles, and deep brown eyes that seemed to flicker with mischief. She slid onto the stool next to James with practiced elegance, crossing her legs. Her perfume, something floral and soft, drifted to him. "Is this seat taken?" she asked, her voice low, a hint of playfulness in her tone. "Not anymore," James replied, offering her a smile. "James?" "Emma," she returned, lips curving into a smile that showed off perfect white teeth. "I was hoping you might recommend a drink. I just moved to the area." He glanced at the bartender. "Can you get Emma whatever she likes, on me?" Emma ordered a martini, then turned to face James more fully. As they talked, conversation flowed easily, laughter coming naturally. She was witty, with just a touch of mystery, never quite revealing too much about herself. James felt drawn in by the spark in her eyes, the confidence in her posture, the way her hand would brush a strand of hair behind her ear, fingers slender and graceful. As the evening wore on, the bar filled up. Emma leaned closer, her shoulder brushing James's arm. The contact sent a subtle jolt through him. During a lull in conversation, Emma placed her hand gently on his. Their fingers intertwined, her thumb tracing idle circles on his skin. The touch was electric but soft, a wordless promise. She met his eyes, and for a moment the world seemed to narrow down to just the two of them. Second by second, the tension built. James felt himself wanting her, not just her body, but the effortless way she made him feel alive. Emma let her gaze linger on his lips, then leaned in and kissed him. Slowly, deliberately, her mouth warm and soft against his. The kiss was brief, but it sent a shock of adrenaline through him. They broke apart, smiling, breathless. A few people noticed, but in that moment, James did not care. He had forgotten about everything else. About the empty house. About Laura far away in another city. About right and wrong. All he knew was Emma's warmth beside him. Her perfume, her laughter echoing in his mind. As the night ended, Emma glanced at him with a twinkle in her eye. "Will you call me?" "Absolutely," James promised, meaning every word. She scribbled her number on a napkin, her handwriting small and elegant. As she stood to leave, James caught a last glimpse of the delicate lace beneath her dress, the curve of her hips, her hair shimmering under the bar lights. She blew him a kiss at the door, disappearing into the night. James stayed at the bar a little longer, his thoughts racing. He knew he would see her again. The days after meeting Emma passed slowly, each one colored by anticipation. James found himself distracted at work, replaying moments from that night, the brush of Emma's hand, her gentle laugh, the warmth of her lips on his. He was caught between guilt and excitement. Yet the promise of seeing her again overpowered everything else. It was Emma who suggested they meet for dinner. James arrived early at a quiet Italian restaurant, his nerves fluttering. He dressed carefully. A fitted blazer over a light shirt, dark trousers, clean-shaven, but for a subtle shadow on his jaw. He wanted to look his best, though he hardly knew why her opinion mattered so much. Emma entered with the effortless grace of someone used to being noticed. Tonight, she wore a crisp white blouse that hugged her upper body, accentuating her slim waist and the gentle rise of her breasts. Small, round, perfectly proportioned. The top few buttons were left undone, hinting at a lacy edge of her pale pink bra. Her navy skirt ended just above her knees, showcasing smooth, toned legs, and her feet were slipped into nude, high-heeled pumps. Her long blonde hair was loose, falling in soft waves around her shoulders, and her lips were painted a bold, inviting red. Her light tan skin glowed in the soft candlelight. James rose to greet her, pulling out her chair. "You look incredible," he said, voice earnest. Emma smiled, a dimple appearing in her cheek. "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself, James." Their dinner was easy, laughter punctuating their conversation. Emma talked about her recent move. Though she remained vague about why she had chosen this city, she told stories about her childhood, described her love of painting and music. But whenever James tried to learn more about her past or her family, she smoothly changed the subject. There was a secret in her smile, an invitation and a challenge at once. As they finished their meal, Emma leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Do you always do what you're supposed to do, James?" He hesitated, then answered honestly, "Not always." She grinned. "Good. I was hoping you'd say that." After dinner, they walked together in the warm night air, the world around them slowing to a hush. Emma slipped her arm through his. "Let's not rush," she said quietly. They reached his car, and James unlocked the door for her. She slid into the passenger seat, crossing her legs so that her skirt rode up a little, revealing the tops of her pale pink stockings and the shadow of her thigh. Her perfume filled the air, jasmine and something darker. In the dim light of the car, Emma leaned in and kissed James, her lips slow and exploring. He responded, his hand resting lightly on her bare knee, fingers tracing upward over the delicate fabric of her stocking. She guided his hand to her waist, encouraging him closer. Their breath mingled, her fingers curling in his hair as the kiss deepened. Her blouse gaped open slightly, offering a tantalizing view of her lacy bra and the soft curve of her chest. James slid his hand along her side, feeling the warmth of her skin beneath the fabric. Emma pressed herself to him, her body arching in silent invitation. She pulled his hand to her thigh, guiding it higher. James's heart pounded as he stroked her smooth skin, his thumb brushing the lace edge of her panties. The moment was charged, the air between them thick with longing, but still there was a gentleness, a respect. Emma broke the kiss, smiling with flushed cheeks. "Not here," she whispered. "Let's save something for next time." James nodded, breathless, his thoughts spinning. She adjusted her skirt and smoothed her blouse, regaining her calm. The moment between them lingered, heavy and sweet. They parted with a long, lingering embrace in the parking lot. Emma's body pressed to his, her lips grazing his ear as she whispered, "I have secrets, James. Will you find them?" He watched her leave, her silhouette confident and unmistakable, her heels clicking on the pavement. That night, James barely slept. Emma's words replayed in his mind. There was a story behind her eyes, something hidden that made him want her even more. The next day, he texted her, hoping for another meeting. Instead, he received a message from an unknown number. "Meet me at the bar. Don't bring anyone." James arrived at the bar to find a new face waiting at a table. A woman with striking green eyes, long black hair, and a sharply tailored suit. She was tall, almost statuesque, with curves that her outfit could not quite hide. Underneath her blazer, a glimpse of black lace teased at her collarbone. Her lips were painted a deep berry shade, and she watched James approach with a cool, appraising gaze. "You must be James," she said. "I'm Kate, Emma's friend." James sat, suddenly wary. "Is everything all right?" Kate smiled cryptically. "Emma likes to keep her life interesting. She asked me to check if you were really worth her time." She leaned forward, her perfume spicy and dark, curling around them. "Tell me, James, how far are you willing to go for hers?" Before he could answer, Kate stood, smoothing her skirt. She pressed a card into his hand. "You'll see Emma soon. Until then, think about what you want." James left the bar unsettled, his curiosity and desire growing. Emma was a mystery, and now her friend was too. He wondered what game they were playing, if he was the hunter or the hunted. That night, James dreamed of Emma, her body warm against his, her hair falling over his chest, her laugh echoing in his ear. He woke with her name on his lips and an ache in his chest, wanting more. The intrigue was only beginning. James could not keep Emma out of his mind. Her presence lingered with him, not just as a memory, but as an almost physical sensation. A heat on his skin, a flutter in his chest. Their meetings had become the brightest moments in his week, and now he was hungry for more. When Emma called, her voice was bright and sweet. "Come over tonight. I want to see you." James barely hesitated. He tidied up his house, nervously straightening pillows, wiping the counter, checking the clock every few minutes. It was not the first time he'd felt this kind of excitement, but it had been a long time since he felt it so keenly. Emma arrived just after sunset. He opened the door and there she stood, breathtaking, smiling, one hand on her hip. Tonight, she wore a short black dress that hugged her body like a second skin, revealing her slim waist and the gentle flare of her hips. The hem grazed the tops of her thighs, and when she stepped forward, James caught a glimpse of sheer, lacy black stockings that drew attention to her toned, feminine legs. Her breasts, small and firm, were perfectly framed by the low scoop of her dress. On her feet, she wore black stilettos. A delicate gold necklace rested above her collarbones, and her blonde hair was curled into soft, sultry waves. Her makeup was just bold enough to highlight her almond-shaped brown eyes and full lips. James's heart pounded. "You look incredible," he managed, stepping aside so she could enter. Emma smiled knowingly, brushing past him. Her perfume, a dark, seductive scent, filled the foyer as she slipped off her coat, revealing more of her smooth, bare arms and shoulders. "Show me around," she said, her voice playful. He did. They moved from room to room, laughing, Emma's fingers trailing along the banister, her heels tapping softly on the hardwood floor. They ended up in the living room, where the city lights blinked outside the window. The tension between them was impossible to ignore. They sat close on the sofa, their knees touching. Emma turned to James and cupped his cheek, her touch gentle. She drew him into a kiss, slow, exploring, her lips soft, her body pressing closer. The world outside faded away. Emma's hands slid over James's shoulders, her body moving into his lap. He held her waist, feeling the curve of her hips beneath the soft fabric. Their kisses grew deeper, more urgent, as Emma's fingers toyed with the buttons on his shirt. She pulled it open, tracing her nails down his chest, smiling as he shivered. She guided his hands to her thighs, and he slid his fingers beneath the hem of her dress. discovering the smooth skin above her stockings and the delicate lace of her underwear. Emma leaned in, her lips brushing his ear, her breath warm. She pressed herself against him, arching her back, her hands guiding his touch. James marveled at the softness of her body, the way her skin seemed to glow in the gentle light. Their bodies moved together gently at first, then with increasing urgency, their breathing in sync. The air was charged with longing and anticipation, every movement careful but full of promise. Emma pulled back at last, her lips parted, cheeks flushed. She looked into James's eyes, her expression vulnerable for the briefest moment. Then she smiled. "I have to tell you something," she began, but her words were cut short. Suddenly, the sound of a key in the lock. The front door opened, and a voice called out, "James, I'm home early." "Laura." Time seemed to stop. Emma froze in his arms, her breath catching. James's heart hammered in his chest. For a split second, panic washed over him. He stood, pulling Emma up with him. "You have to hide," he whispered urgently. Emma's eyes widened. She slipped silently down the hall, disappearing into the guest room as James hurried to button his shirt, trying to look calm. Laura appeared in the entryway, wheeling a suitcase, her golden hair slightly disheveled, wearing a tailored travel suit that hugged her tall, athletic frame. Her blue eyes scanned the room, lingering on James. "I missed you," Laura said, smiling. She set her bag down, stepping close to kiss him. James forced a smile, his mind racing. He tried to focus on Laura, but his thoughts kept darting to Emma, hidden just a few feet away, her scent still clinging to him. Laura moved into the kitchen and James followed, heart pounding. He tried to make conversation, but every sound from the hallway made him jump. After a few minutes, Laura excused herself to shower, promising to tell him all about her trip after. As soon as Laura was gone, James slipped quietly down the hall to find Emma. She was standing by the window in the guest room, her black dress rumpled, hair tousled, her face pale. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. Emma only smiled, her eyes soft. "It's all right. I knew this might happen." For a brief stolen moment, James embraced her, burying his face in her hair. Their lips met in a desperate, whispered kiss, gentle, full of longing and regret. Emma's hands rested on his chest, her fingers tracing his collarbone. It was a goodbye and a promise all in one. Emma slipped out the back door, her heels in hand, leaving James with a whirlwind of emotions. Guilt, longing, fear, and something else. Excitement, the danger, the secrecy had only heightened his feelings. He returned to Laura, forcing himself to act normal. But his thoughts were with Emma. He wondered if this was the end or if it was only the beginning. The shock of Laura's unexpected return hung in the air, a silent storm waiting to break. The following days passed in a haze for James. Laura's return should have brought relief, a sense of normalcy. But instead, he felt trapped in a strange, uneasy calm. At night, as Laura slept beside him, he lay awake, replaying the stolen moments with Emma. The heat of her skin, the hunger in her kisses, the way she vanished like a shadow in the night. Every sound in the house reminded him of that close call. of the near discovery that sent adrenaline burning through his veins. Laura seemed content, but she was more attentive than usual. She asked about his days, smiled at him with searching eyes, and sometimes watched him just a little too long, as if trying to catch him in a lie. James played the part of the loving husband, sharing stories from work and acting as though nothing had changed. But inside a storm was brewing. He reached out to Emma, but her phone went straight to voicemail. Texts remained unread. James tried to convince himself that it was for the best, that their affair had ended before it could truly begin. But the ache of her absence gnawed at him. Days later, as he left his office late in the evening, James found a small note tucked under his windshield wiper. "Meet me at the coffee shop on 3rd. Come alone." 8 p.m. His pulse quickened as he arrived at the appointed cafe. A dim, quiet place filled with the rich aroma of roasted beans. A handful of customers sat scattered among the tables, but James immediately spotted Kate in a corner booth. Her presence was magnetic, tall, striking, her jet black hair glossy under the overhead lights. She wore a crisp charcoal suit with a slim skirt that hugged her hips, and a glimpse of dark red lace peeked from the open collar of her blouse. Her figure was statuesque, with a confident posture and an unmistakable allure. James slid into the booth across from her. "You have a talent for being mysterious," he said, trying to sound light. Kate gave him a small, enigmatic smile. "And you, James, have a talent for getting into trouble." Her emerald eyes sparkled with amusement. "Emma's not in town right now. She left suddenly." James's heart sank. "Did I do something wrong? Is she all right?" "She's fine. She just needs space." Kate stirred her coffee, then looked up at him, her expression softening. "Emma's unpredictable. She always has been. She likes excitement, but she gets cold feet when things get complicated." James frowned. "Complicated how?" Kate's lips curved into a knowing smile. "You're not the first married man Emma's found herself drawn to, but you might be the first she actually cared about." She leaned in, lowering her voice. "You want to know her secret, James?" He nodded, tension coiling in his stomach. Kate studied him for a long moment, then reached across the table, placing her hand lightly over his. Her touch was surprisingly warm, her fingers slender and sure. For a fleeting moment, their hands remained together, and the energy between them shifted. Kate's gaze softened, and James realized just how striking she was. Long legs crossed under the table, her hips curving in her tailored skirt, her waist slim, her breasts full but perfectly proportioned, the lace of her bra just visible. Her skin was ivory pale, her cheeks dusted with a hint of rose. There was a strength and elegance in her, so different from Emma's playful charm. Kate squeezed his hand gently, her thumb brushing his knuckles. "Emma never lets anyone get too close. She disappears when things start to feel real. That's her way." She released his hand, but her fingers lingered just a second too long. James swallowed, caught in a tangle of longing and confusion. He wanted Emma, but now he found himself drawn to Kate's quiet confidence. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. Kate's smile was sad, almost wistful. "Because I think you deserve answers." And maybe because I like you too. She slid a folded slip of paper across the table. If you really want to see Emma again, go here tomorrow night. But be careful, James. Some mysteries are better left unsolved. As he left the cafe, James's mind raced. The city was alive with lights and possibility, but he felt the weight of Kate's words and her touch on his skin. That night, unable to sleep, James wandered through the house. Laura's perfume hung in the air, blending with the phantom scent of Emma. He paused at the window, gazing at the moonlit street below. He felt haunted by the absence of answers, by the ache of desire and the sting of guilt. The next evening, James went to the address Kate had given him. It was a quiet apartment building, unfamiliar and nondescript. He climbed the stairs, his footsteps echoing, heart pounding in his chest. He knocked softly, uncertain what to expect. The door opened, and Emma stood before him. She wore a simple pale blue dress that hugged her body. Her golden hair pulled back loosely, a delicate gold chain around her neck. Her figure was as beautiful as ever, petite and curvy, her hips swaying with every step, her breasts high and round beneath the thin fabric, her legs bare and flawless. Her eyes were wide, a little vulnerable, her lips unpainted, but full. James stepped inside, and for a moment they just stood, looking at each other in silence. Emma stepped closer, reaching for his hand. She drew him to the sofa, sitting beside him, her body pressed against his. Their lips met, and the kiss was gentle, filled with longing and apology. Emma rested her head on his shoulder, her fingers tracing circles on his thigh. There was a sadness in her touch, a tenderness that made James ache. He held her close, cherishing the warmth of her body, the curve of her waist, the softness of her skin. They did not rush. Instead, they let the quiet speak for them, their bodies communicating what words could not. When at last they parted, Emma looked at him with tearful eyes. "I'm sorry, James. I get scared. I want you, but I'm not good at staying." James held her, heart heavy with questions he dared not ask. As he left, he glanced back to see Emma framed in the doorway, beautiful and enigmatic, a mystery still unresolved. The city swallowed him as he disappeared into the night, the puzzle of Emma growing only deeper. James's days blurred into a swirl of conflicting emotions. With Laura back home, the routine of married life resumed. Morning coffee, shared dinners, quiet evenings in front of the television. But beneath it all, something had changed. Every touch from Laura, every glance seemed heavier, charged with suspicion, longing, and unsaid words. Laura watched him with a careful gaze, searching his face for signs of the man he once was. Or perhaps for the man he might have become while she was away. It was the little things that betrayed him. The faint trace of unfamiliar perfume on his shirt collar, a single silky strand of golden hair on the bathroom sink that was not Laura's. One evening, Laura lingered in the bedroom doorway, arms crossed, her blue eyes shadowed by something like doubt. "James," she asked softly, "is there something you're not telling me?" He looked up from the book he was pretending to read, the words blurring on the page. "No, Laura, everything's fine." But his voice was too quick, and Laura's expression did not soften. Instead, she sat beside him on the bed, her posture tense, her body rigid beneath her loose, pale blue pajamas. Even in her simplest clothes, Laura was striking, tall, toned, her hair falling in golden waves down her back, her delicate collarbones visible where her top slipped off one shoulder. "I feel like you're hiding from me," Laura said, her voice trembling. "Since I came home, you've been different." James reached for her hand, trying to summon the warmth he once felt so easily. "Work's been stressful. I'm just tired." Laura nodded, but her fingers slipped from his. That night, she slept with her back to him, and the distance between them in the bed felt like an ocean. James knew the truth was coming for him, whether he was ready or not. The next day, a message arrived from Emma. "I need to see you. Urgently. Tonight." He met her at the old bar, the site of their first encounter. Emma wore a soft cream sweater that clung to her curves, light blue jeans that hugged her hips, and a simple gold bracelet on her wrist. Her hair was pulled back, revealing the delicate slope of her neck, and her brown eyes looked anxious but determined. They found a quiet corner. Emma glanced around nervously, then met his gaze. "James, I need to be honest with you. Laura knows something. I saw her the other day. She followed me after work." James's breath caught. "What did she say?" Emma shook her head. "Nothing. But she saw me go into your building." "She knows, James." A wave of dread washed over him. For a moment, he saw his life unraveling. The marriage, the comfort of home, everything he had built. He looked at Emma, realizing how deeply he had fallen for her, and how impossible it was to balance the two worlds he had created. Before he could answer, Kate appeared. She had traded her suit for a fitted green dress that hugged her curves, the color making her eyes seem even brighter. Her long black hair was loose, cascading over her shoulders. She gave James a sad, almost sympathetic smile. "You have to make a choice, James," she said. "You cannot keep pretending." As Kate spoke, James's mind drifted, almost helplessly, back to moments with Emma, her body pressed against his, the softness of her lips, the way she would arch into his touch. He remembered the curve of her waist beneath his hands, the heat of her breath on his skin, the way her laughter filled the room with sunlight. He recalled how her lacy bra felt beneath his fingertips, the gentle rise and fall of her chest, her whispered words in the darkness. Every memory was tinged with longing and regret. The sweetness of what they had shared now shadowed by the pain of what he might lose. He shook his head, as if to clear it. Kate placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You cannot protect everyone," she said gently. Laura's arrival was sudden, a storm in the quiet. She entered the bar, her eyes locking onto James, with a look that could cut stone. Laura was a vision of controlled fury, dressed in a tailored navy blouse and dark jeans, her blonde hair pulled into a high ponytail. Even in anger, she was beautiful, her features sharp, her posture commanding. "So this is where you disappear to?" Laura said coldly, glancing at Emma and Kate in turn. How long has this been going on? James stood, guilt and fear warring inside him. Laura, let me explain. There is nothing to explain, Laura interrupted, her voice barely above a whisper. You made your choice. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Kate placed a protective arm around her friend, but Emma shook her head, stepping forward. I'm sorry, Laura. It was never meant to happen like this. The tension in the bar was palpable. Second by second, the scene unfolded before the silent gaze of a few late-night regulars and the bartender polishing glasses behind the counter. James felt trapped. The truth had finally surfaced, and there was nowhere to hide. He looked at Laura, her eyes shining with tears she refused to shed, her body rigid with hurt and pride. He looked at Emma, so vulnerable in that moment, and at Kate, quietly strong beside her friend. He remembered again how Emma's body had felt against his, the gentle way she would brush her lips over his jaw, the sound of her laughter in the dark. It was a memory he could never let go, even as the world he knew began to fall apart. The moment seemed endless, the silence broken only by the quiet clink of glasses and the distant hum of traffic outside. At last, Laura turned away, her voice trembling but strong. If you want her, James, I hope she is worth it. With those words, she left the bar, her steps echoing in the silence. James stood rooted in place, torn between relief and loss, desire and guilt. The conflict that had built inside him now spilled into the world, changing everything. He realized then that nothing could ever go back to how it was. The night Laura left the bar, James wandered the streets, numb with disbelief. Neon signs flickered in the darkness, rain pattered gently on the pavement, and the city seemed to echo the turmoil inside him. He could still feel Laura's last words vibrating in his chest, the chill in her eyes, the way her shoulders squared before she disappeared into the night. He returned home alone. The house was silent and cold, every shadow deeper than usual. James moved through the rooms, pausing by the empty bed, staring at Laura's forgotten hairbrush on the dresser. He had always imagined himself in control, balancing two lives, keeping secrets tucked away. But now the truth had spilled out, and nothing felt certain anymore. The next morning, the sun broke through the clouds, filling the bedroom with pale light. Laura was gone. Her suitcase, her coat, her perfume, all vanished. In the kitchen, James found a simple note. I need time. Don't call. James wandered through his day in a daze. At work, he stared through meetings, his thoughts tangled. He kept checking his phone, hoping for a message that never came. The world felt emptier without Laura, but thoughts of Emma crept in. Her laughter, her warmth, the way she had challenged him to feel more, risk more. That afternoon, as he left his office, James found Emma waiting outside. She stood by the curb, a vision in a flowing white summer dress that fluttered around her slender legs. Her hair was loose, gold in the sunlight, her face bare of makeup but radiant, her brown eyes shadowed with worry. Can we walk? She asked softly. They strolled through the city, winding past shops and flower stands, neither speaking for a while. Eventually, Emma broke the silence. I'm sorry for how everything happened, she said. You deserved honesty from the start. James stopped, turning to face her. What were you hiding, Emma? Was any of it real? She held his gaze. More real than you know. But I was afraid. I move from place to place because I am scared of being needed. I have left a trail of half-finished stories, people, jobs, even cities. When I met you, I thought it would be the same. But then I started to care. James's heart twisted. So that's why you disappeared. Emma nodded, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. I was falling in love with you. And I have never let myself do that before. I thought if I ran, I could protect us both from getting hurt. He reached for her hand. But you did hurt me. And Laura. All of us. Emma's eyes shimmered with regret. I know. I'm sorry, James. They stopped under a tree, shadows flickering across their faces. James leaned in, and Emma did not pull away. Their lips met in a slow final kiss, gentle and bittersweet. Emma's hands rested on his chest. Her body pressed close, the soft fabric of her dress fluttering in the breeze. Their embrace was tender, a memory more than a promise. As they parted, Emma brushed his cheek with her lips, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw. And James felt a surge of loss, longing, and gratitude all at once. I'm leaving, Emma whispered. Tonight. This city, and maybe this part of my life. I cannot keep running from myself. But you helped me see that I am more than just a secret. James watched her walk away, her silhouette glowing in the golden light, her steps light and certain, as if she had finally found her way. When he returned home, James found Kate waiting for him on his porch. She wore a soft grey dress, her black hair loose and gleaming. Her posture was composed, her green eyes steady. "May I come in?" she asked. Inside, Kate made tea, her movements calm and graceful. She watched James for a moment, then spoke quietly. Emma told me she was leaving. I wanted to say goodbye too. He nodded, uncertain what to say. Kate reached out, her hand warm on his arm. Do not blame yourself for wanting more from life, James, she said. We all do sometimes. He looked at her gentle beauty, her quiet strength, the way she always seemed to understand more than he ever said. Kate drew closer, her presence soothing. She leaned in, pressing her lips softly to his cheek, her breath warm on his skin. She hugged him, her arms wrapping around his shoulders, holding him for a moment in silent understanding. Their bodies fit together naturally, her curves molding to him, her heart steady against his chest. In her touch, James felt acceptance, a kind of peace he had not known for a long time. Kate pulled back, a soft smile on her lips. Take care of yourself, James, and take care of Laura, if she lets you. After Kate left, the house was quiet, but the emptiness felt lighter, less like a loss and more like a space waiting to be filled. That evening, James called Laura. She did not answer, but he left a message. I'm sorry. I want to fix this, if you will let me. Weeks passed. Life slowly found a new rhythm. James focused on work, met friends for coffee, and learned to enjoy his own company. Sometimes he would walk by the bar where he met Emma, remembering her smile, the way she made him feel young and alive again. One afternoon, Laura returned home. She stood in the doorway, sunlight behind her hair glowing, her face open but cautious. She wore a soft sweater and jeans, her posture relaxed but watchful. James rose, his heart thudding. "Laura." She held up a hand. "Let me speak first." He nodded, silent. Laura stepped closer, her blue eyes steady. "We cannot change the past, James, but we can decide what we do now. If you are willing, I am willing to try again. But this time, no more secrets." James crossed the room and took her hand. "No more secrets, I promise." Laura smiled, a real, hopeful smile. She leaned in, pressing her lips to his, soft, forgiving, full of the promise of new beginnings. He wrapped his arms around her, feeling the strength in her body, the comfort of her embrace. It was not passion like with Emma, but it was home, warm, safe, one deeply real. Outside, the city moved on, its light shining in the early dusk. Somewhere, Emma was starting a new life. Kate was probably finding her own adventures. And in that quiet living room, James and Laura found their way back to each other. Not perfect, not unchanged, but honest at last. Sometimes the most important discoveries are not about others, but about ourselves.